Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest edition of Life on the Autism Spectrum. I am Jennifer Brooks, your book reviewer, and today I'm sitting in for our co-host, Keith Halperin, and I'd like to welcome our other co-host, Will Burnick. Will, tell us about your shirt.
This my first shirt of the year is my Chinese New Year shirt. As some of my Chinese New Year shirt. As most of you know, this month is Chinese New Year. It's the year of the snake. That's right. It's the snake's turn to be the it's the snake's turn to be the lead zodiac animal. And most for those of you who are born the year of the snake, you'll be pretty important this year. So I hope everyone's celebrating Chinese New Year, and I hope you have fun this month.
Oh, and thank you, Will. And today we are welcoming our guest, Jackie Schuld. Will, would you like to ask Jackie the first question?
Glad to. Jackie, tell us about your background and your history with autism.
Mhm. So I am an autistic and ADHD individual, and I'm also an art therapist who specializes in autism. So I work with people who are primarily late identified autistics, meaning they found out as adults that they're neurodivergent.
Tell us about your project and how you've been keeping up on it.
Yes, so I'm currently writing a book called The Joys of Being Autistic. And I'm also working with fellow autistics on the book. I have 10 contributing authors who've also shared what they find joyful about being autistic. So, where I am in the process now is that I'm kind of pulling all the writing together, and I'm also an artist, so I'm making the illustrations for the book as well.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about some of the themes that people are writing about? You know, what are the joys of being autistic? We know there can be a lot of negatives.
Yes, and your point about there being a lot of negatives or challenges is why I wanted to do this book because that's what everybody focuses on, are the hard aspects of being autistic, which I don't want to downplay. They are real. We experience them. But there are also on the flip side positives, and often the things that are challenging for us can also be the same things that bring us joy. For example, our sensory systems are very sensitive. And so that can easily lead to sensory overwhelm and all sorts of just not being able to stand a lot of social places. On the flip side, our sensory system being so sensitive can help us, delight in like a tiny little pattern or a wonderful smell. Like we really get emotionally pulled into things through our sensory system, and that brings joy. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in the book are both sides of the spectrum, honestly, of okay, this is like for instance, another one would be autistics are known for having routine. And often that's seen as a negative, like, oh, you can't break your routine. You have to do this, this, this. But also, routines can bring us a lot of peace, a lot of grounding, a lot of the stability we need to be present so that we can enjoy the life we have. So, again, looking at things from both perspectives.
And now our cultural reviewer, Stacey Kennedy, would like to ask Jackie a question.
What would be the best way for them to start? Just start. No, not say it that way, but what do you think? What's the kind of advice you could, possibly give?
Are you asking how people can start to like recognize and experience joy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Even if it's something they certainly want to do.
I think a good starting place is acknowledging our needs as autistics. And the reason I start there is that if we are destabilized or ungrounded or feeling emotionally volatile, we're not present enough to really experience the things that bring us joy. So the first step is really meeting our needs, which means things like, well, I'll speak for myself, for instance. I need a lot of recovery time. after I'm out and about in the world. So if I were to come home and immediately expect myself to like just be happy, just enjoy, that's not possible. I need a nap. I need some quiet time. I need like leave me alone. And and then once I've calmed down, then I can really start to be like, ooh, maybe I feel like doing some art, or maybe I feel like whatever. So again, meeting those needs that you have to start there, I would say would be the entry point.
Hey, Jackie, why don't you and tell us where you are now with the with putting the book together, and how did you start on it?
The book started years ago when I started wanting to write about the joyous things of being autistic. And then I started a sabbatical. So I'm taking a break from my therapy private practice, and that started in November of 2024. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to have some space and capacity to work on this book. But when I sat down to really expand on the subject, I realized I couldn't do it all on my own. Um, like you don't know what you don't know. And that's when I decided to invite other autistics to contribute articles or essays, either way. And I just asked, like, hey, I'm looking for 10 writers who want to contribute. And I ended up getting 76 submissions. And
Oh,
so it was, yes, which is exciting, although it was also a bit heartbreaking to have to like narrow it down. And so, really, though, what I ended up doing is selecting 10 essays that kind of captured what the whole was trying to say. And so I've notified everyone if their essay was accepted or not. And the next step is for me to interweave my own writing with these 10 essays, because I'll be doing a lot more, because it'll be a big book. And then to also create illustrations to accompany them. And I'm an art therapist. And so to me, yes, we can articulate a lot verbally, but there's so much that we can't always capture as autistics. And that's why I also really want the art component with it. So my next steps is I'm actually leaving next week to attend an artist residency for a month. That's where I'm just gonna go away to do my thing, write, do art, and my goal is to have the book published by this fall, so fall 2025.
yeah. And where will people be able to find it? Will it be on Amazon? Will it be at Barnes and
Mhm.
Noble?
It'll be on Amazon, and then I hope to make it available in other ways to digitally download.
What are some of the joys people wrote about?
Mhm. I found there were certain categories things fell into. For instance, the arts. There was a lot people wrote about the joy of, for instance, dance or photography or even the visual arts, and how that ties to autism, in saying that one, it's one of their passions, their special interests, but also that the way their mind thinks helps them to be more creative, to notice details, to emotionally experience things that they can put into their art. So there was a large category of that. There was also a category of people talking about how being autistic helped them to be happy in their work and careers. And that usually included things like they feel their autistic minds help them to be more innovative, to notice patterns, to pick up on details. And they really used those skills in their work and enjoyed what they were doing because of that.
One of the stereotypes of autistic people is that we tend to be highly intelligent and good at math and science. And so, didn't anybody write about that aspect of it, and possibly being able to use those talents to scientific research, advancing knowledge, contributing to the benefit of society?
Oh, yes, there was, and especially in the career department, there are a lot of people like program developers or scientists, things like that, engineers sharing what they did. And for your question about contributing to society, that was another category that came up, was the deep sense of justice autistics feel and how much we care about social justice topics, the environment, and all sorts of things. And so there were some really good essays about how our autistic minds and the way we care for things, how that shows up in our activism work, our advocacy work, which also brings meaning to our lives, which is another thing that can bring joy.
So I'm a little bit curious. You're incorporating both written essays and visual art, and you got
Mhm.
the idea to ask other people to contribute written essays. Why didn't you do that for the visual art?
Did consider that, but this was my first time asking people to contribute to a book. So I first wanted to see, like, okay, let me see what I get written wise. And I didn't want to complicate the process too much because I knew I'd first have to get the written. And then I'd have to get art that either related to what was already written. And so this was another one of my concerns is that many times we might be gifted in writing, but not art. So if someone were to give me a piece of art but couldn't or write about it, I wasn't sure how to handle that. And so if I do choose to request art in the future, it'll be for a different book when I feel ready for that kind of endeavor.
What are the next steps for you after this book is finished?
I will continue with my therapy practice, so I'll pick back up with that, and then I am always up to something artistically in writing. This will be my seventh book, so yeah, I'm sure something will come up in the future that I get excited about, and I'll pursue
Yeah.
that.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the first 6 books?
Yeah, sure. I started 10 years ago, after my mother died.
Oh,
I made my first book called Grief is a Mess, which is just about how messy grief can be. And I didn't know I was autistic at the time, but looking back, I can see it. I made that book trying to make sense of grief, and that's really what the book is about. It's like, what is this? And pretty much as I moved through life, I continued making books about my experiences. So the subsequent books um, were about that, and then to where I am today, where I've been writing a lot about autism.
Tell us about your therapy practice with autism.
I specialize in late identified autistic adults, meaning people who found out after the age of 18 that they're autistic. And what we do together is one, understand how autism impacts them. Because when you're given a diagnosis, often they don't tell you, like, okay, so that means you experience these particular characteristics or these particular challenges. They often don't break it down with you. So I work with clients to really help them see all the ways that autism impacts them. And then I also help them learn how to work with their brains because for so much of their lives, they were taught, this way of being doesn't work. You need to be more like this, be more like this. And instead, what we're doing is accepting, okay, this is the way your brain works. And if that's the case, what do we need to shift so that you can enjoy life again? And we do a lot of that exploring through verbally talking, but also through art. So we'll do art in session to help brainstorm or process, or as well as I give my clients things to do in between sessions to help them deepen the work and expand the work that we're doing.
why don't you tell us a little bit more about the art itself? What kind of art do you make and do your clients make?
What we do is completely tailored to the individual and where they're at in life and what they're needing. So, for instance, an autistic client might have difficulty expressing the immense amount of emotions they're feeling. And that is not a good feeling in general to be like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. So I might ask them to make a abstract painting that captures how they're feeling. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've had clients then refer to that painting to be like, oh my gosh, yes, that is how I'm feeling. So even though you can't say it, you can show it. So that's an example. Or a lot of times just helping emotions move through the body. So not just saying like, oh, this is what I'm feeling, but also like through clay and sculpting change. And again, it's really just, I see what well, discuss with the person what they're needing and then tailor what we do to that.
What are the joys and hardship challenges of writing a book?
Well, one, it's exciting to write on a topic that interests me, that I also feel needs more attention in general. Like, I'm just tired about hearing all the negative things. And I want more people having a more full portrait of autism. So it's exciting in that regard. The challenges would be the enormity of the project, for sure, that there's a lot I want to accomplish with it, as well as I don't want to whitewash the difficulties. I don't want it to be like a toxic positive, like, oh, it's all great. I want to walk that thin line of being like, yeah, there's very real difficulties. And there's also this.
Do you think there's any particular connection between autism and creativity? Does being autistic enhance creativity in any way?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the way our brains can make connections, like, that's like one of the basis of creativity, that your brain is like, let me think of this a different way. Or also that we notice different things. That's also helping us to be more creative. So yes, I think it's one of the great gifts.
And a follow-up question, why do you think autistic creativity is so underappreciated and undervalued?
Well, I wonder if it's even recognized in the first place that it is autistic creativity. I think so many people don't know they're autistic, or we don't know in the past that great artists, let's say, or thinkers and such were autistic. So I think maybe because it just hasn't been named. I really hope that we as autistics can become more vocal about the changes we'd like to see, and like to experience in the world, because I think what benefits us benefits everyone. And like, let's go with a simple example. Leaf blowers. I cannot stand the sound of like, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna lose my mom. And in an autistic friendly world, those wouldn't exist. And I think most of my neighbors would also like leaf blowers to not exist. So that's like a very concrete example. But we can also look at the social justice components, how much autistics care about the environment and want changes there. Like, obviously, us nurturing the environment and tending to it and taking care of it will benefit all of humanity, not just autistics.
What are your thoughts on the autism community going forward?
I hope the autism community continues to do their thing. And what I mean by that is, like, each of us are really passionate about different things. And I think the more we do that, the more we're going to be expanding and advocating for the things that we love and the things we hope to see in the world. So what I mean by that is, if you're a writer, please write more. And if you're like a singer, sing your heart out. Or if you're like into programming, like make that app that like you think will help with some kind of executive functioning or whatever. The point is, like, the more we're doing our things and contributing in the ways we want, the more we're gonna have the exponential change and growth we're hoping for, as well as that visibility, so that there's an accurate whole picture of who we are as autistics and as a community.
Well, thank you very much, Jackie. And now we turn to Jennifer Brooks for the book review. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today, I would like to tell you about the book Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols. The surprising science that shows how being near, in, on, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do. There is a section in this book titled Autism and Water. Starts with a quote. Going into the water, you leave autism behind. Don King, whose autistic son, Bo, body surfs with him. So this is all about some testimonials from some people with autism who find it therapeutic to play in the water, whether that's swimming, body surfing, or just splashing. Here's another quote from a 13-year-old, Naoki Higashida, wrote a book called The Reason I Jump, which I hope to feature in a future episode. Here's a quote. In the water, it's so quiet and I'm so free and happy there. Nobody hassles us in the water, and it's as if we've got all the time in the world. Whether we stay in one place or we are swimming about, when we are in the water, we can really be at one with the pulse of time. Outside of the water, there's always too much stimulation for our eyes and our ears, and it's impossible for us to guess how long 1 second is or how long an hour takes. We are outside the normal flow of time. We can't express ourselves, and our bodies are hurtling us through life. If only we could go back to that distant watery past, then we'd be able to live as contentedly and freely as you lot, meaning the neurotypicals and people reading this. So, yeah, this goes on to talk about Don King's son, Bo, and another child. Don King's family made a documentary. Donna and Greg Edwards saw the documentary and then took their 8-year-old son, Kyan, to the beach the next day. And yeah, Kyan was able to calm himself when he was on the beach. Yeah, a quote from his mom, you deal with autism on such a raw basis every single moment of every day. To be in the water and kind of leave that behind, it's huge. Michael Rosenthal, pediatric neuropsychologist of the Child Mind Institute, who works with autistic children, comments, as a clinician, I'm always working with kids to find something that's going to make them feel happy and safe and secure and relieve their anxiety. But it's important to note that water in the ocean is therapeutic for a lot of people. I don't think it's necessarily an autistic thing as much as it is a human thing. So that's a discussion about how what I suppose you could call water therapy can be an effective treatment for autism, which could be thought of as irritable brain syndrome. So, and I'll see everybody next time for the next book. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. And now we will turn it over to our cultural correspondent, Stacey Kennedy.
Hello, everybody. Today, my cultural report for you is first I want to mention about Spectrum Motion Pictures. I want to share with what Peter Kangas and Josiah Palmas have been involved in for quite a while, and they just finished a movie called The Falling, excuse me. And so apparently Saturday, February 15th, they will have a panel at the Arc of San Francisco talking about this this film that they did and their latest projects, especially featuring neurodiverse cast and crew, and other people will be involved, and they're in person to talk about it. And inclusive filmmaking update will be their subject. So, and next will be Saturday, February 22nd. There will be a bowling event in Fremont, and the venue is to be determined, and this is with the San Francisco Autism Society. Jill Escher again runs that, and she's the one to contact, or you can go to the website info or the email address info@sfautismsociety.org. So again, Saturday, February 22nd, there should be some fun bowling in Fremont. Thanks.
Well, folks, that's it for today's episode of AascendTV, Life on the Autism Spectrum. I am your book reviewer and substitute co-host, Jennifer Brooks.
I'm also your co-host, Will Burnick.
I'm your cultural correspondent, Stacey Kennedy.
And I was the guest today, Jackie Schuld.
All right, everyone, stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.